Mr. Fernandes, your directors have asked me to meet with you to assess your business competence. It's really just a formality.
No problem.
Can we start by running through exactly how many businesses you actually own?
Of course.
OK, so Caterham F1.
I own that.
And Caterham Road Cars.
I also own that.
OK, Queen's Park Rangers.
Yes, I own that.
Alpine Sports Cars.
I own half of that.
And the HRT Formula One team.
Dear God, no, I don't own that.
But would you like to?
Certainly not.
Good. Well, you seem extremely competent in business to me, as you were.
Hello, welcome to Gareth Jones on Speed, you lovely car heads. And the car that's been occupying my mind for the last 48 hours is the Mercedes-Benz AMG Black Series. I should have said SLS in there, really, to put it all in context. Have you seen that, boys? Have you seen the SLS AMG Black Series that's been proposed for the next year?
It's happening. It's a dirty, mucky car. I don't want to sound
This
like
is Richard
a
Porter.
killjoy.
Hi, Rich.
I don't want to sound like a killjoy. I'm sure it'll be spectacular, but I've driven the normal SLS. Yeah. I didn't ever find myself thinking that it needed more power. I did also find myself quite surprised at how civilised it could be if you just needed to go about your daily business. And then what a hooligan it could be if you just needed to blow off some steam. And I can't help thinking that by doing this Black Series one, they're sort of shifting it towards the hooligan-y, nutty end. And that's fantastic. But it probably won't be as nice a car just to drive in. What I liked about the SLS was how murkish it was. It just got on with being a car.
True,
put it in auto, drive around, aircon works, radio works. You could just sit there, very comfortable, and then you could go completely bonkers when you wanted to.
But to play devil's advocate, you know,
it's the voice of the
too many cars manage to kind of do it all and just balance it all really nicely in a rather sort of capable and maybe slightly boring way. This is, and I'm not saying that the regular car is at all boring.
That's the thing.
I'm just saying maybe this is just getting a nice little dash of.
I think this has got this is spicy enough in normal form to be exciting. I know what you mean. There are a lot of cars that go about their business and they're fine. This is like, I like a hot curry, but I would never order a curry hotter than a Madras, because I think once you go beyond that, depending on the chef, you're really just tasting heat rather than flavour. And I think the Black Series could be a Vindaloo, could be a File.
But if
you're just going to taste the heat.
If you do like a really hot curry, you know, if you really like a good strong pepper sauce, if you're really into your spicy, there's a.
You like hot food. You've driven an SLS. Do you want a Black Series too?
I wouldn't say no. What I'd like maybe would be a long-term evaluation of the Black Series and the regular, and then I can decide which I prefer.
Well, I think you've got what we can do.
It's the kind of rigorous journalism you've come to expect.
You don't want to rush these decisions.
So, what car's been occupying your mind?
Actually, the Evoque. You know,
really? Why?
Yeah, well, I've been seeing them around, and they're a better addition to the roads than I thought they'd maybe be. I think they're looking good out there. They're not offending my eye in any way. They're not.
We talked a while ago on the programme about cars that hold your attention. That even when you start to see them around, you'll still have another look at them just to take in some of the details. The design that looks likely to stand the test of time, that is interesting, but not too gimmicky, hopefully. And I always thought the Jaguar XF was very good. It sort of remains a quite elegant car, and understated. The current Ford Fiesta, I think, is a really nice bit of design. You see them all over the place, but you still look at one and go, well done.
It's a well put together, well designed.
Just look, the proportions are right, which is hard to do on a small car. You look at all the people who seem to get it wrong. But the Evoque is a bit like that. I'm starting to worry whether it will date. I was looking at one this morning in traffic and thinking maybe there's a bit too much going on. But if you look at where it's going on, a lot of it's on the plastic bits and the lights and things that they can change at the facelift if they want to calm it down a bit.
I was looking at some of the proposals for new Land Rovers to come, and that roof line from the Evoque is going to translate to other Land Rovers or Range Rovers or leisure mid-range things that they're going to do. So your point about it potentially dating is valid, because if they roll that out elsewhere and update it with every new car, the original Evoque that brought that line to Land Rover is going to start looking a bit old very suddenly, I would think, is the point.
I think it's more a question of whether those things like the slashes over the wheel on the Fiat Coupe a few years ago, you know, at the time looked rather interesting, but that dated really quickly. Even if they get away from elements of this, I think it's a well-balanced design that they've managed to evolve from the Range Rover starting point and come up with something actually really quite elegant, neat, compact version of it. And I think it's going to hold up in a few years' time. I think we're going to be looking at it.
It's a handsome car, and hats off to Julian Thompson, who did the original Lotus Elise. I think we now know is a man who knows good proportions and
that's a design that, if anything, has got better over the years.
There is one detail on the Evoque that, for me, almost spoils the entire show. And once I've pointed it out to you, you won't fail to notice it in future, and it will distract you, because it distracts me like heck.
Hang on. Is it something to do with the grille?
No, although I do think Land Rover grills are a bit chintzy, and I wish you could get them in grey and black rather than that shiny silver. Sometimes you can.
Is there a mismatch somewhere?
No.
Is it something to do with lights?
No, the lights.
Go on then,
really
tell
nice.
us.
Right, the driver's side windscreen wiper, the arm sort of doesn't just carry on straight parallel with the bottom of the windscreen and the trailing edge of the bonnet. It looks like it's been bent, but they're all like that. It's designed like that. It looks like somebody's bent it slightly. I can't figure out why it's like that. I've never got around to asking somebody from Land Rover why it's like that, but it is there, and it just looks messy and wrong, like it's broken.
Is it spoiling your day?
Almost every time I see one, I go, what a handsome car that is. I hope it doesn't date too much. And, oh no, look at the windscreen wiper, you idiots!
So what car has been occupying your mind, Richard?
Something that I think will be up your street, Gareth, because it is, number one, a Ford.
It's a good start. Yeah.
Number two, it's an estate. Number three, I haven't really got a number three. It's the Ford Focus ST estate.
Oh yeah, bless them. Yeah,
I done do drived.
Yeah,
as,
you did done driving
as
of it.
D.I. Blundell of the Metropolitan Police's Formula One squad would say. I did done drive it a couple of weeks ago, and it was very nice. Well, but it brings me back to something that Zog said about cars that are just very good, and whether very good is enough. I drove a left-hand drive Focus ST hatchback very briefly. I had a sort of half-hour go in it earlier in the year, and it took my breath away with its unruliness. It was quite squirmy under acceleration, torque steer, and just liveliness. And I thought, well, this is interesting. It wasn't unpleasant because it was just slightly bonkers, but not too bonkers.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've been fiddling with that car since then. This was a production spec, right-hand drive, Focus ST estate.
Ford have a continued programme of improvement.
That is right. The value of your Ford may go down as well as that. Your home is at risk if you do not drive a Ford, or something. And, it wasn't as bonkers, and I actually started to miss the bonkersness a bit. I found it an extremely pleasant, competent car. I needed to go to Birmingham, as happens to me occasionally, and I drove to Birmingham and back again. It was a very good motorway car. I drove off the motorway deliberately on a junction, as they ask you to do, and went for a little cross-country drive in it to see what it was like. And if you get on an uneven road and you're really gunning it, it will get a bit ridey. The steering wheel starts to twitch with the power of which it has, sort of 240 horsepower. So it's not,
sounds about right.
It's not a slow car. But for the most part, I don't know. Its competence was almost its downfall. That sounds ridiculous.
Well, it's been said of the Focus in its previous
enough.
incarnations that it's actually so competent that it almost stops it from being fun. Not as dull as a Golf. A great car to drive. Do you remember when the Elan, was it called the Elan S2 came out? The one that was later sold as a Kia in Korea. It had that floating raft front suspension.
Yeah, it was just originally the Lotus Elan when it came out in, 1990. And then, remember, they stopped making it, and then they decided to start making it again, just for a little bit. And I think then it was the S2. And then it went to Korea and became a Kia, which I drove the Kia version. They brought a couple over to the UK for assessment, and inexplicably, I borrowed one for about 2 weeks.
Wow.
Basically, they didn't want it back. And I was working on old Top Gear, and my colleagues kept borrowing it, and I went to a wedding in Yorkshire in it, and went into a McDonald's on the way back for some hangover food, and the girl behind the counter went, "Is that your car?" Kind of. She went, "It's nice." And it was bright yellow, left-hand drive, Kia Elan. And, but the thing is, and I've never driven...
Was it called the Elan?
It was called the Elan, yeah.
I didn't know that.
And at that point, I'd never driven the Lotus one, which is very good in its own sort of way.
Floating wrap front suspension. They
Well,
call
I
it
think
the first
Kia, an
150
equal
mile per hour
length
cheap
drive shafts
supercar,
and
yeah.
stuff, and it was meant to handle brilliantly and designed by Peter Stevens. But the Kia one was bloody awful. But yet still, everybody in the old Top Gear office kept borrowing it because it was about the only car we had knocking around, and it did look quite groovy, and it was a convertible, and the weather was nice, and we went all over the place in it. But I went to a meeting, in fact. I went to a meeting at Land Rover in Gaydon, or it was Rover back then.
Yeah.
And I drove from our office at Pebble Mill down the M40 to Gaydon with the roof down, pulled up to Land Rover in Gaydon, going to a big important meeting to interview one of their chief designers. Thankfully, their design studio building is glass plate fronted. Walking up to it, suddenly realised I looked like Fido bloody Dido because my hair was all standing wildly proud of my head, thanks to the convertible effect.
The perils of open-top driving, yeah.
We've drifted slightly off the point.
Well,
of the
what I was
Focus
trying to
ST,
say was that the ST probably suffers from the same thing that the Elan did. It was so capable because of that floating raft, I think I said it before, floating raft front suspension they talked about. It made it dull. And that's probably what's happened with the ST. It's so sorted, it's dull.
Yeah, I suppose so. I've driven a few new Focuses.
Foci.
I'm not sure it is because it's a name.
Yeah.
So
Well, it has to be a Latin root in order to become Focus. It's like octopus. Although, because octopus isn't a Latin word, octopi isn't necessarily the correct plural.
Yeah.
So
Focuses.
octopus has 3 correct plurals. So so Focuses.
either way.
No, but hang on. Let's
Is he talking about Bond?
But Focus is
Focus is a Latin word.
So
yes, but it's
so
a proper noun because it's a name, isn't it?
Foculi.
I'm going to vote Foci.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay, yeah.
that's my
if
vote.
you say foci, I'm saying
Yeah.
foci. So
Yeah.
I've driven various foci, and I had that 1 litre EcoBoost 3-cylinder one the other week, and I've always driven the new Focuses, and thought there's a funny angularness to the dash, and particularly where it comes out with the vent by the door. Where you get out, the dashboard has a very angular sort of pointy bit, and I've always looked at it and thought that's a bit angular and pointy, and it looks like you could really crack your knee on that.
You know what that is, don't you? That's
What?
the focal point.
Oh.
Sorry, science joke. Sorry.
Optics joke, even. That's
Optics.
Optici?
moving on.
So there's this pointy bit of the dash, and I've always looked at it and thought you could really crack your knee on that. I was driving this Focus ST, I got in one day and I really cracked my knee
There
on
you
it,
go.
and it bloody hurt. So, well done, Ford. You've made a car that isn't as exciting as I maybe hoped it would be, except it does cause you a great deal of knee pain.
Slightly.
Ford, we have a continuous programme of improvement and knee pain.
The Ford Motor Company already leads the way in causing its customers minor knee pain. But there's always room for improvement. That's why designers are testing out a new design of door aperture that claims to offer vastly increased chance of head injury. Here we see a Ford engineer testing the new design using an actual customer.
Here you go, my love. Just get into this Fiesta here.
Oh, thank you, Sonny.
Ow! Oh, dear, darling. Have you hurt yourself, my dear?
I don't like this Fiesta. Could you sell me a Ford Fusion?
It appears you have bumped your head, my dear. Happy times.
The Ford Motor Company.
Sniff Petrol with Gareth Jones on speed!
We're recording this programme before the US Grand Prix, so we don't know how things are going to play out this weekend. I have to say, I'm itching to see cars on the circuit on practice. You know, there are some races that you absolutely have to watch on, you know, the Sky or the Red Button or whoever's got it. I'm actually going to be travelling on a train. I hope that the hotel I will arrive in will have it, because I'm itching to see this Austin track. Is this where the World Championship's going to be settled, do we think, Zuck?
I don't know.
Go on, predict the future. It's easy.
I think all we really know is that there's going to be a lot more enormous steaks barbecued at this particular Grand Prix than any other this year. Like you, I'm really gagging just to see what the Austin circuit's going to be like, how it's going to work out, and how America takes to F1 this time around, because as we know, it hasn't always been the easiest
it's an odd
kind of
place.
relationship. And
Texas doesn't seem a likely venue for Formula One. It's a bit, no disrespect to the wonderful Texans, but F1's pretty sophisticated. Saying here, they're like their hogs big, and they're like fighting in their car racing down that way. They're not going to get any of that, are they?
Well, it's a less crude spectacle than the NASCAR
Nicely
and the
put.
like. And you should never generalise too much about America. You know, it's a huge
big
country.
place. Texas
There's
is
a lot of
massive
people there,
place. I was gonna say,
and there's a
lot
huge
of
variety of
who are
people.
quite sophisticated in
Yeah.
Texas. Like, it's a huge place.
So,
there are a lot of
George
frigging
Gillards,
idiots, but
and
there
they
are
were-
also
yeah,
a lot
but there are an
of
awful lot of really
sophisticated
smart people
in
and
Houston and Austin. But
Yeah.
you've been
Oh,
to Austin.
Yes, I have, yes.
Big
Nice
music
place.
town.
It was a pretty rock and roll town when I was there, I can tell you.
But I'm
I don't even want to begin
there's
to know what that
probably a
means.
story or
on-
two there,
on
but
there.
yeah, I'm really open-minded about it. I'm not thinking, oh, this is going to be a disaster for F1. No, I'm just open-minded about how it's going to work out, and I really hope it works out well.
As
there.
long as it's a good race, because I'm not convinced that there are that many F1 fans in South Korea based on the empty grandstands, or China for that
or China,
matter.
yeah.
But if the races were good, not sure they were necessarily, but at the moment, and if the race in Austin is good, if the track is good, could be. It's got that sort of elevation and stuff going on. Could be quite good. We're sitting at home. When the people on telly always go, "There's a great atmosphere," and I'm like, well, then communicate that to me more than just saying it's good.
Yeah.
And people on Twitter, F1 journalists, just crapping on about what a great time they're having, and particularly when they do it when you've sat at home watching television, particularly on a package that you've paid a subscription for, and you feel a bit shortchanged when actually it was a really crummy race, and then they're going, "Oh, what a great atmosphere!" You're like, "Sod off!" I wanted a spectacle. I didn't get one. I don't want somebody there going, "Oh, well, if you were here, it would have been a great spectacle." It's like, no, people don't do that for the tennis, do they? Going, well, it was an incredibly dull pedestrian match, and
But it was lovely to be
over
here.
But it
really
was a
quickly.
great
Oh, but the
atmosphere.
atmosphere on centre court was amazing. It's like, well, I'm not on centre court, so I'm at home. I'd like it to have been a bit more of an enjoyable sport.
But will the World Championship be settled, do we think? What we don't want to happen is for Alonso to win this race, is that right? Because
that would all be... no, wait, no, because...
if Alonso wins it, there's still a chance in the last race, is that how
Yeah,
it
so
works?
we don't want Vettel to win it.
Don't want Vettel to win.
Because then it'll keep it
Bloody
going to
hell,
the next race.
we're going to be
Yeah.
shouting for Alonso, so it goes to the wire for the last race. Are we? Would you, Richard, shout for Alonso just to keep the championship going?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, I would. I really would.
I wasn't
Good
expecting
man.
you to say
No,
that.
I would, because I was worried about Alonso, and I still don't particularly like him as a human being, because I think he's a treacherous but
But he's a terrific
but
racing
he's a
driver.
terrific racing driver, and it would be a better championship this year if it went to the wire.
Yeah.
And also, I'm a bit torn, because on the one hand, I don't particularly care for Alonso, but Vettel's had 2 championships back to back. 3 in a row. It just feels like it's someone else's turn. I would love it if they suddenly went, "Oh, we forgot to tell you, there's another couple of races. We didn't mention it. There is a French Grand Prix. Bit short notice, lads. The pits aren't ready. It'll be awnings that we got from B&Q, but there is a French Grand Prix, and also we feel bad about Donington, so we're going to do a little thing there as well. It'll just be a few laps. It's basically a sprint event, and that way Kimi could surge through the field, win all of the 4 remaining races, and win the World Championship.
Now I like the way you're thinking.
Yeah,
Yes,
Now I
well,
like the way you think, yeah,
Mr.
okay,
Eccleston, you
this
can
is,
have those ideas for free.
So, assuming Bernie decided not to download this episode of the show, and the championship remains just the 2 races that we have,
Yeah.
America and Brazil, Zog, you're a betting man. Who would you put
From time to
safe
time,
money on, Vettel or Alonso?
Put the money on Vettel.
Would you put your house on Vettel? I
Not
know it's slowing
not
down
so
in the
sure
race.
about that, but
Your boat?
but no, but the
Your Porsche? Would you put your Porsche on it?
no, I don't think I would. I wouldn't. There's
See, now you're getting to the really important stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
If you wouldn't put your Porsche on... Well, you wouldn't put your Porsche on anything.
I think
Dead
Vettel. I think
cert, would you?
it depends what odds I was getting. If the odds were such that I'm putting the 944 on the line, but my potential return is the 944. You know,
Well, wait a minute. If the odds
plus-
were, say, 5 to 1,
Then I'm
that mean
getting-
the bookie would have to find 5 944 turbos
Exactly.
to give you. Well, actually, how would it work? I
think
never
it would-
understand betting.
yeah,
I don't,
it's-
I
No, I
don't
think
really
it's
bet, 'cause I never get it. Would
1-9
you get 5 extra ones or 4 extra ones back?
If it's 5 to 1, you'd get your original stake, your
Yeah.
original 944 turbo back,
Yeah. Yeah.
plus 5 extra 944
Very good.
turbos.
Are you
So,
allowed substitutions? Like, could you just accept 1959?
I think you'd have to sort of work-
959?
I think
That's a lot,
you'd
I
work
know.
That's
that
a
out.
lot.
I know.
Yeah, I was
I don't
gonna
know
say
if
that-
100 to 1 where they go, Zog, We've combed the classifieds. We can't find 100 944 turbos for sale at the moment.
Would you accept?
Would you take a
this
959?
and reluctantly,
Or a
I
Speedster.
don't think I'd take
It's
that.
in a slightly
I'd go for
undesirable
that, you know.
colour, and it is quite high mileage, but it's yours if you want it.
Do you know what I
We
think
could-
going to
yeah,
happen?
go on.
Predicting the future is famously stupid because you always get it wrong, don't you? But I think Lewis is probably going to win this damn race. Think about it. It's in America, therefore it's his home race. As far as Lewis is concerned.
As far as Lewis's accent is concerned.
Exactly.
Increasingly.
He is going to want that market more than any boy in the whole of Formula One.
He's going to want to go on a high. He's had a frustrating time in the last few
Yes.
races, really. And
Haven't we all,
he's
Lewis?
going to want to leave McLaren showing them what he can really do. So, but
He
no,
wants
of
to
course,
do that sort of equivalent thing of bumping into an ex-girlfriend and being able to
With
tell
a-
her your life's going a lot better since you... Well,
Yeah.
I suppose that happens next season. He wants to start by beating the McLarens in his new Mercedes, doesn't he? And then just be going, yeah, I've got a new job, actually. I'm a
doesn't-
graphic designer now, yeah. That's right. Yeah, no, we've moved to a nice part of town, yeah. Oh, how are you?
Yeah, no, it's going really well for me, yeah.
But I don't know. He does want to go out on a high. You're right. He
Yeah,
wants to
yeah.
kind of go, you wanted a piece of me, but now you can't have me anymore because I'm
Yeah.
off. Bye.
Yeah.
He'll be more focused. Will Sir Michael let him down is the question. I blame everything on Sir Michael. Why not? Because McLaren have had more mess-ups than many of the big teams, all the big teams this season, really, haven't they? They've had some cataclysmic failures.
Their
They've had-
season has been better than the sum of its parts. Which
Yeah.
cars have been pretty shoddy. The car's
Yeah.
not been terrific. The pit stops through a lot of the season were shambolic. And then Hamilton broke down last weekend. It's amazing how few times Formula One cars actually just break down these
Yeah,
days. And
they've had a couple of those with mechanical gremlins, and they haven't developed the car as well as you'd usually expect them to do.
But that's the thing, they've got two good drivers, and even Button, who I think seems to fall apart when the car's not driving the way that he wanted to, is they've sort of wrestled the car around better than... But so Ferrari, I mean, that Ferrari is commonly acknowledged to be not particularly brilliant, really. But,
Not quite a dog, but not
they're
the
in
greatest
the
thing,
shout
are
of
they?
having the drivers' champion
I know.
because, again,
Yeah.
McLaren have-
buttocks, clenched
Because
teeth.
your man Alonso
is a very good driver.
Yeah.
He's like the Predator. He's there to pick up anything that falls in front of him, and McLaren are failing, and even Red Bull have cocked up in a big way. But what about Vettel's drive from the back of the grid in the last race? I mean, that was proper entertaining to finish on the podium.
Yeah, so Vettel
Magnificent.
can't overtake. Well, he
Yeah,
sort of can and
Clearly he
did.
can.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah,
he
no,
probably
exactly. You
can.
know, it gives the lie to people that say he can't.
And with that kind of
also the drivers.
dominance, the chances are Vettel will do it. But my money, and I'm not a betting man, but if I was, my money would be on Lewis. I just think he's got a bigger point to prove, and I think Vettel has got more at stake and therefore will be conservative. Okay.
Well, that's true, but in all seriousness, what you want to do is place your money on whoever's odds are furthest out of line with however you think they're really going to do. So, in a sense, it doesn't matter who you think is most likely to win. You put your money on whichever odds are most favourably out of line with what you think the results
Do you
will
know,
be.
funnily enough, and I'm not a betting man generally because I'm not very good at it and I don't understand odds, as we've established, but I did 3 seasons ago. When did Alonso win the championship? 2010? Hang on, no, 2000
2 years ago, it
2010,
was,
yeah,
for the last 2
2010.
years, it's been the Red Bull.
Yeah, before
Before
2009
3
was
years.
Button.
It was 2006.
Yeah.
I put a bet on. It was around the time that my wife developed a gambling problem. Which
Really?
no, not really, not really, honey. I'm joking, but no, she'd
You've
never.
never called me honey before.
She never really, not you, and not in front of the children. She put a bet on, I don't know, tennis or something with some people at work, and then suddenly developed a taste for gambling and opened up an online betting account and started betting on all sports and kept drilling me for information about Formula One. Who do you think is going to win this race? Eventually, the championship was already going, but I opened up an account at her insistence, I think, to make her feel better, and I bet on Alonso to win the championship, and he did. But I did it not because I wanted him to, but because they were the best odds and he looked the most likely. It was the best combination of those things.
That was smart
and he
betting.
did. I've never claimed my winnings. I got an email about 2 weeks ago from the popular betting site saying, if you don't claim them soon, we're taking them away from you. And I was a bit
No!
like, oh, well, it's
can't
like
do
50
that.
quid or something, so it's worth having.
Yeah, you know, you need to either carry on betting or cash out.
The
Yeah.
best betting advice I was ever given was from, I've done this before, mentioned Fred Dinage on this programme, Clang, but Fred was one of the directors on the board of Portsmouth Football Club. You know, his life was given to running this club. Whenever they played, I hope I'm not going to get in trouble for saying this, he always bet against them winning. So if he was disappointed that his team lost, at least he got a consolation of winning.
Oh, okay, so it's sort of like
That's a
little
very
pick-me-up
smart
for him.
approach to betting, I think.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
And
You
at
bet
least-
against whoever you want to win.
Well, I was going to say, at least he can never be accused of match fixing, but actually he could, because he could have told his own team to lose. I'm sure he did. I'm not suggesting that Saint Fred Dinage, legend of broadcasting, was fixing football matches.
I will finish on this point. You know, Fred is connected to the craze, don't you?
Oh dear God, don't make this worse.
I said, have you got our money?
Ron asked you a question, Sunshine. Have you got our money?
No, I told you I haven't. Reg, I think it's time to teach our friend a lesson.
I think it is, Ron.
And that's how you break someone's legs, and that's how for now.
Gareth Jones on speed.
Every now and again, something happens in Formula One which makes you remember why you love Formula One. One of the greatest moments ever was the revealing of the Tyrrell P34 six-wheel Formula One car. For me, the next really big moment was Damon Hill winning the World Championship. Then it was Lewis winning the World Championship in that epic way in that last race. But the best thing that's happened recently is Kimi Räikkönen swearing on the podium after he'd won a race. Which do we love him for most? The swearing or the winning, or how he won?
We love him for the radio. I thought that was the best hit-to-car radio I can recall hearing.
It's even better than Fernando is slower than you, isn't he? No, faster than you.
Faster than you.
Fernando.
Yeah.
I just love the way he sounded so relaxed.
Bit peevish, though. Bit peevish. Being hassled.
What did he actually say?
A tiny bit, but he wasn't sounding hassled. He just sounded, leave me alone.
I thought it could have developed into... You remember that episode of Fawlty Towers where Basil Fawlty is supposed to be putting up the moose's head?
Yes!
And every time he's trying to do it. And then Sybil goes out and she rings and Polly answers and says, Mr. Fawlty is... Yes, tell her I'm doing it!
Yes.
And it was a bit like that.
Yes. What did he actually
I'm doing all that,
say?
I'm doing all that.
Because there's some dispute about what he actually said.
Well, the first comedy message sounded like, leave me alone, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think it was actually, let me alone, I know what I'm doing. But yeah, that's what that's
well, that's
what he
interesting,
said.
because that's another variation. I
thought it was let me alone, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Oh, you see, I thought it was leave me alone, and I thought it was I know what I'm doing. It's a bit fuzzy, you can't necessarily hear it. And I do these T-shirts through Sniff Petrol, and I emailed my T-shirt people straight away after the race and went,
guys, I've got a new
I've got a
T-shirt
new
for you."
slogan
Yeah.
for you.
Beautiful.
Leave me alone, I know what I'm doing. They've knocked up some T-shirt designs, and we've got this one now, and it's got that on the front. And then a bloke on Twitter said, well, you've got that wrong. It wasn't leave me alone, I know what I'm doing. It's leave me alone, I know what to do. And I listened to it again, I found it on YouTube. I was like, no, I'm pretty sure. It's hard to tell. It could be either, but I'm pretty sure it's I know what I'm doing. He sent me, this same guy, then sent me a link to a higher quality clip of it. And it did sound like it was I know what to do. And I thought, oh, God, the bloody T-shirts are wrong. But I did a quick Google search on it. And it seemed like most people were thinking it's I know what I'm doing rather than I know what to do.
Never let the truth get in the way of a good story. You know,
Well,
they say
there's
that.
things like that, isn't it? There's some of the crowd are on the pitch, they think it's all over, and there's actually sort of various versions of that. It's there are some people on the pitch,
That's
I
right.
think, is the real
I
one.
think it's all over. Well, the one I was about to cite is Apollo 13, where... What's the quote from Apollo 13?
Houston, we have a problem.
Houston, we have a problem. That's what everybody says. I wish this was QI. What was actually said was, Houston, we've had a problem. That's
Really?
what actually was said. Yeah. So the fact that everyone knows Houston, we have a problem, they know it's Apollo 13, that's gone into the general shared knowledge morass of
Actually,
slight
it's not,
wrongness.
it's also, I think it was Hounslow we've had a problem, because at the time they were passing over
A
Heathrow
different
Airport.
tracking station.
And,
It was the ground station at Heathrow.
I am writing a song for Gareth Jones on Speed about why we all drive and don't take the train. It's called Houston, we have a problem. And I'm not making this up, I promise you. So it's all right that if there is a popular version of a quote, that's fine. That's the slogan. You own that IP.
Well, there's an
okay
interesting development in this, which is that a story then broke the week after the Grand Prix that Kimi Räikkönen himself had 500 T-shirts made. I mean, he could have just bought them off my T-shirt shop, but no, he had to go and have them
his
made.
own T-shirts.
Leave me alone, I'm having them made myself, he possibly said, and gave them to everyone at the team. And the slogan, there was a picture on the internet purportedly of one of these T-shirts, and they are in the Lotus colours, black with gold writing on it. That's probably why he didn't buy them from me, because mine weren't that design. And he's had them made with "Leave me alone, I know what I'm doing." So either that's what he said, or he's now misquoting himself.
Or maybe that's what he meant to say. So
yes.
So basically, bottom line, you're okay with your.
It's just like, when you think of something pithy you should have said in a situation only 6 hours later when you're in bed. Yeah.
It's like Neil Armstrong landing on the moon. You know, what he actually said was, that's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. There's no G on it. What he actually meant to said was, me, I'm on the moon. You know, this is unbelievable. So you can rewrite your own history. That is allowed, as long as you tell people that's what you said, or agree that's what you intended to say.
Yeah, I mean, Neil Armstrong did drop the A in the first word, but we accept that's not what he meant to say.
It's become bigger than the actual meaning or not of the sentence.
So,
just to recap the second thing that Kimi said, which was, yes, yes, yes.
I'm doing all that.
I'm doing all that,
already.
yes.
Yeah. I'm already doing that, I think, or something like that.
I think it was I'm doing all that, or because they said warm all 4 tyres, which it always seemed strange. I mean, like you forget
rather than just warming
back,
just warm 3 of them.
I completely forgot the rear left.
I'm only warming 3 of the tyres.
What an idiot! Yeah, you could see his exasperation was.
Why didn't you tell me earlier?
And he was sounding a little bit tetchy at that point. Mate.
Yes,
he just had a little
Tell her I'm doing it. Yes. Polly, tell her.
But Kimi winning is evidence of something I said in the programme recently, that Grosjean's problem is that Kimi's so good. And that's why Grosjean's having to overdrive to try and stay in the sphere of Kimi. And there we go. Which of the 2 Lotus drivers has won the race before the other? It's Kimi, you know. Kimi! He was there. He was in the position to win it. Perhaps not winning on their own merits. You know, they didn't streak ahead of the Red Bulls, but they were there
but they didn't.
pick
But
up
they
the opportunity.
didn't fall behind. And it's sort of, it's one part the car's okay, and it seemed to be working quite well that weekend. And then it's 7 parts the swearing, mercurial, slightly tetchy genius that is Kimi Räikkönen. May God bless him and all who sail in him.
He earned that win, and he deserved it. No question.
God, thank God he came back.
Good
It wasn't in Formula 1 anymore. It would be a poorer place.
And actually, and thinking about sort of teammates, I mean, it's really great that he's managed to get that win, both for him and the team before the end of the season.
Yeah.
But look at some of the other drivers.
Make a big difference.
Pairing. I'm a little bit disappointed that Paul di Resta hasn't sort of done rather better. I'd sort of hoped that he'd have rather overshadowed Hülkenberg, but it's been
but Gareth...
It's hard to overshadow the whole...
Yeah,
I think he's exceptional, you know that. I think he's one of the best out there. He's not the most exciting driver these days because he's pretty safe pair of hands. The most exciting driver in Formula 1 at the moment is Taki Inui. Is the current...
Sergio Perez?
No. Well, the other one.
Kobayashi?
Kobayashi will lunge for things and he's entertaining because of that, you know.
Erratic genius. In a strange kind of way.
Not sure if he's going to be there next year. Unless what money he has got, he uses to buy HRT, because they're up for sale, aren't they?
Are you suggesting that he has £7?
That's all it would take.
Probably.
I was wondering
who's going to buy it?
No one.
Really?
Well, I don't know.
It's a tradition. They're continuing the tradition of the back of the grid Formula 1 team. Do you remember when Arrows changed hands every 3 seasons? Minardi changed hands every 6 seasons. New investors were brought into Ligier and then Prost. They sell out, and eventually they have to flog the whole thing.
But one of the problems they've got, and there was a very intelligent column by one of the F1 writers on the internet this week about this precise problem. If you were looking to invest in a business, because it seems like HRT are one of those slightly no-hoper teams that attract outside investment from a cable of bankers or something. You think, oh yes, Formula 1, that sounds like fun, let's have a go. And there's a slice of arrogance and naivety in the way they go about it. And if you were looking to invest in something, one of the first things you do is, okay, now, this industry we're going to invest in, where are the centres of excellence? Where is all the talent? Okay, so it's in the UK and also to some extent in Italy. Now, where is our investment based? Spain.
Yes, Madrid.
Strikes me that's not a good idea. On second thoughts, we'll just invest in something else.
I was thinking, who should buy HRT, Do you know who'd be the safest bet? Either ProDrive or Yoast. Yoast.
Now that's an interesting idea.
Wouldn't you
I
like
mean,
a
it'd be left
Yoast
field-
Formula One team? It'd be good, wouldn't they?
Would they though? But that's the thing. I remind you again. It's like I'm going to invest in an orange juice company. Now, the centres of excellence appear to be in Spain and Florida. Where's your orange juice factory? Scotland. I'll pass. Yoast aren't stupid. They could bring the whole operation to them, but then why are they buying it in the first place? What are they buying? Except
Well, you're buying a license
place
to
on
be in
the grid.
Formula
Yeah,
One.
that's it. That's
Yeah,
all
you're
they're
buying a
buying.
place.
And let's be honest, Bernie is not adverse to cutting a deal. If Yoast went low, you know what? We'd fancy a crack at Formula One. I think he would find a way to, first of all, hold them upside down and shake them until some money fell out, and then he would allow them onto the grid. It's as simple as that.
But if they decided that they wanted to take their racing expertise to F1, just buying HRT is as good a way as any to do it.
The crucial thing is their racing expertise. It seems like they have racing expertise. HRT, I remind you again of my Scottish orange juice. It tastes awful.
You've been listening to Richard Porter,
Goodbye.
to Zog,
Goodbye.
and to me, Gareth Jones. This was On Speed.
To send us an email, see pictures, get song lyrics, join our Facebook fan site, follow us on Twitter, or to find out about sponsorship opportunities, go to garethjones.tv. Gareth Jones on Speed is made in London by Whiz Bang.
Gareth Jones on Speed!